I've been thinking about the console wars. I got this video on my YouTube homepage. It was essentially a compilation of some of the most iconic video game commercials. And the very first one was Sony's PS3 commercial with the PS3 and the baby. It was horrifying, but it was amazing. And that got me thinking, this generation doesn't really have any iconic moments. The only one that really comes to mind this entire Xbox Series generation PS5 is Hollow Knight Silksong, with it shutting down every single gaming marketplace. That was truly a moment that we will all never forget, and the entire sort of weird backlash that game is getting from all areas of the community, not for being bad or anything, but for being too good, and it only being like $20-$30 or something. I personally haven't played it, but it looks fun, and it's the kind of game that people will remember for a very long time. This is like the Halo 3 moment for a game, and I guess the last other game like that would be like Helldivers, but even still, that doesn't feel nearly as big as past things. I do miss the console wars. It's not the same anymore. It's different. All these game consoles, the Xbox, the PlayStation, even Nintendo to an extent, are less about the games and more about the services they provide. I think right around 2017, 2018, with the massive explosion of games like Fortnite and other many live service titles, Destiny 2, Fortnite, obviously, Roblox, and many more, it sort of sparked a massive race to be the next big thing. But when that race begins, you're already too late, because Fortnite is what is still around, Destiny 2 to a lesser extent, and Roblox has never been bigger. Does anybody remember Babylon's Fall? Does anybody still remember Concord? And I think some of those massive failures for the gaming industry are directly tied to some of the things we see today. Like, I don't think Sony, with the PS5, needed to raise their prices. I don't think they needed to. They are one of the best-selling consoles of this generation by a long shot, and they were making decent money, and each game that they made was fantastic and was getting rave reviews. I don't think that they were hurting for money, until I found out that it cost them $400 million to make Concord. And then like 6 to 8 months later, they started raising prices. I'm not saying they're connected, but they feel so connected. And there used to be these big moments in gaming. Like, gaming was, you would go to school and in the playground, and during lunch and whatever, you would be talking with your friends, debating what you should get for your console, or what's the next big game, who's gonna beat who, are you gonna get Halo or are you gonna get Call of Duty? Like, those big schoolyard debates, just, first off, I'm not a child anymore, so I actually don't know if this is still happening, but it feels unlikely that it's still happening, at least to the same extent that it used to be. I spoke to my younger stepbrother. He is like 11 or 12 or something like that. He plays almost exclusively Fortnite, so it doesn't matter what console he plays, because you could just get Fortnite on both. He doesn't really care about what console he has as long as it plays the game that he wants to play. It has very little to do with any brand loyalty, a sense of community. It doesn't matter. He just wants to play Fortnite. And I think that in of itself is just a little less fun. I remember me and all my friends talking about what console we're gonna get. I remember it was Christmas of like 2011. I was very late, and a few other of my friends were very late to the 360 generation, because we're all born in 2002. Like, we weren't really allowed to play games like Call of Duty until we were a little bit older, obviously. So when we finally got the council sat together and decided, are we getting a PS3 or are we gonna ask for an Xbox 360? And about almost unanimously, we all asked for 360s. because we all wanted to play Halo. We wanted to play Halo 4. We wanted to play Halo 3. We all had older brothers who had 360s of their own that we couldn't play, or we had to ask permission and get our 15 minutes. Mom, can you please get him off the Xbox? I asked him 50 times. That kind of thing. It was hands down one of the best Christmases. And for all my friends it was, but for me, no. It was something else. It was amazing. It was an amazing Christmas, don't get me wrong. But I got a 360 with a game. And that game, included in the box, was Connected Adventures, which, in retrospect, it's a fine game. It was pretty fun. But it was not Halo or Call of Duty. I eventually got it. But it was just so much fun. The debates, the overall atmosphere in going back and watching old clips from the launch of Halo 3. It was an event to end all events. There was so much coverage. There was on national cable news networks. People would be talking about Halo 3, the next big game, or whatever. It was exciting. Now the only time video games get brought up on network television is that they're bad for you and kids play Fortnite and that's what they do. Or it's connected to some sort of mass tragedy, which is just so depressing. Outside of that, the PS3 was also super exciting, though my thoughts of it are much less because I personally only ever used one tangentially. It was a part of my life, but I never directly owned one. Used it at friends' houses, cousins' houses. I used it enough to be familiar, but not enough to care. And I'll be honest, it truly felt like the PS3 just had no games. The death of the console wars, it was really a few compounding things. Some just strategic blunders on the point of Microsoft. I love Phil Spencer. I think he seems like a great guy. Like, he's super nice seeming. And he just was given a bad hand. Man, every time he talks about it, he looks like he just wants to throw himself out a window. I hope he's okay. He's seen the way he was talking about the Xbox One being the worst generation to have lost. And he was like smiling. He's like, yeah, this was the worst thing for us to happen. And he just kept smiling and talking. You could see there was nothing behind those eyes. PS3 later came on and just ate all of their lunch. It just tore the Xbox One apart. Nintendo also went through a bit of a rough patch. The Wii U was not ideal, but they all came together at the end and made the Switch, which was fantastic. But the Xbox series of systems was never going to be successful for just the fact that its name, it's bad. It's a bad name. Microsoft just can't seem to get their shit together long enough to do anything about it. Like, sometimes there's moments of lucidity and Microsoft squirts out a decent game like Hi-Fi Rush, but then 2 seconds later they step on its neck as it was just born and go, oh my god, it was an amazing game. Oh, I'm sorry you loved it. It's gone now. Sorry. Sony, I'll be honest, Sony made better games in the past. To me, that's just almost an unbeatable fact. All their games look exactly the same. They're all third-person, over-the-shoulder action-adventure games with mild RPG elements. That almost literally applies to 95% of Sony's output for the last handful of years. That's God of War, that's Horizon, that's Last of Us, not so much for the RPG elements, but it is a third-person, over-the-shoulder action-adventure game, like all their other games. That was Uncharted, that was essentially all the Spider-Man games. They all, except I guess Spider-Man technically feels different because you're a Spider-Man, but at the end of the day, at least the specific to Sony, not Marvel, I guess, all feel and look exactly the same to me. So Sony has been making the same kind of game for close to 10 years, so nothing can convince me that they do anything all that interesting outside of maybe the odd Ratchet and Clank game, or whenever they decide to bring Sackboy out of retirement. And sure, that's kind of sick, but not particularly entertaining. Astrobot was cool. That's all I could say about that. I get that game development takes a long time these days, but it feels like the Series S and Xbox Series X and PS5 simply don't have an identity of their own. And I would like to think with this move of these console manufacturers like Sony potentially working on a handheld, Microsoft making a handheld with Asus, and potentially making their own handheld all by themselves at some point in the future, could be a good sign of maybe there might be some amazing console war things sparking back up. But I don't think it will happen again. I don't think we have the games for it. I don't think there will ever be another Halo 3 moment. I don't think Microsoft has it in them to come back. I don't think Sony will ever pull their head out of their butt long enough to not make the same kind of game over and over and over and over and over again. I don't think that they're going to stop buying studios. It's just an inevitability. If you make one too many good games, you might have Microsoft or Sony knocking at your door, buying your company. There's still good, amazing games coming from indie studios, and just overall like AA and AAA studios are still making good games, but it's not the same. I'd love to hear what you guys think though. Are you at all excited or hopeful that there might be another console war coming with a handheld move? Or are you equally as sad as I am? Do you miss the good old days on the 360? Do you miss the PS3? I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all other social media coverage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.